Welcome back, Red Ice members. Thank you very much for joining us. We are continuing our very interesting conversation with Niki Raapana, and we are talking about the communitarians and the Anti-Communitarian League, of course. And I want to begin this segment here to talk a little bit more about one idea that Niki mentioned at the end here of the first segment, and that has to do with this idea that all the land basically is taken away, as it were. And I want to ask you, Niki, if this also could have been one of the reasons why you decided to, I guess, take up the fight, if you want to see it that way, because in a way what I'm seeing happening here is that there's nowhere left to go or nowhere to run, so to speak. It's this idea of, I mentioned before that I probably would try to opt out of society, in that regard, if I considered to becoming too bad, or I wouldn't want to live within it. But the question is, do you think that the time is running out for us to have a location or somewhere on the planet to go to escape the ideology that we're being immersed in here? What do you think?
Yeah, because first of all, it's a global consciousness that they're creating, and they really mean that. It's the entire world has got to go along with this. No place is going to be allowed any sort of self-determination, or local interests will never prevail under them. So, yes, time is running out. I thought 10 years ago in Seattle, when the new Seattle community government said that they were to direct all public and private property for the future, I thought they were insane, okay? So that is what got me involved, because my understanding of American law is that it's based on property rights.
Yeah.
And in fact, it is, okay? In order for there to be a crime in America, there has to be damages to either property, any kind of property, people, things that you own, cars, something. They go into court. The burden of proof is on the state to prove that you damage something, okay? And then in civil court, same principles apply. You have to claim damages in order to file a civil suit in one of our courts. And the damages claim have to be that somehow you were damaged by this action that this other person took. So when they said that property rights were gone, pretty much, and it was their job to direct it for the public good, I got very involved, because I also understood that privacy rights are not enumerated in the U.S. Bill of Rights or any of the state constitutions particularly. It's based on property. So if you lose your property rights, then obviously you have no privacy rights here. And now I'm not as big of a champion for American rights, okay, as I was when I first got started, because I'm learning some things. But the basic principles that appealed to what was called at the time the healthy instincts of the plain man. The American Declaration of Independence by 1824 had been copied by almost every colony in the world. Keeping the fruits of your labor, keeping your own property, and having the right to self-determination is, to me, that's the theme that runs through all people. They hear that, they go, yeah, I picked that fruit, I get to keep it or sell it, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to buy my products from the empire. So it has to do with economic freedom, and economic freedom is tied to the land, because the land is where you get your resources. It's where you graze your sheep, your cattle, it's where you cut down your trees and make things out of wood, you get the water. If you don't have land, you don't have resources, and you're dependent on something or somebody.
And you would you say that that's the idea, then, to erode these rights, as it were, and your own, because again, that idea of that you should be able to sustain yourself as a human being, if you're on this world or on this earth, but this is slowly being eroded, this is being taken away, and now we can't do this anymore, right?
Well, what they've done, it's like every dialectic requires extreme opposites. So everywhere where there's like, forest erosion, like Sumatra, for instance, right now.
Yeah.
They've just 9 governors excuse me, of these islands in Indonesia just agreed to only promote sustainable development in Sumatra, which means now all local enterprise involved in logging, fishing, whatever, okay, is under the control of the global government. So every time they make an agreement like that to promote sustainable development, which is a UN term that means whatever they want it to mean, you see.
Right.
So, excuse me, I got something in my throat. The whole concept behind taking the land that way is that they're not anti-development, because in the early days, they convinced people in some of these places that they were actually going to protect their neighborhoods, protect the local forest, protect the water, keep it clean. It was all about, protecting the people and the resources that they used, right?
Yeah.
But sustainable development, being such a wonderful whole phrase, that means that not that they're not going to develop, but they're going to develop it under their corporate, friends, using this terminology that means nothing. So now when they poison the water, it's sort of like the Fed causing the crash in 1929. They're not doing it on purpose. It's just sort of accidental. So they can't be blamed for the processes. And what they do, basically what I saw in Seattle, was they eliminate all your small privately owned businesses, because that's your middle class. Those are the people that sustain you, really. They're the real, sustainable, whatever it's called, concept or whatever.
Right.
Locally owned business is the, it's the foundation, really, of America. So you get rid of that, and you replace it with corporate-owned stores and call it sustainable development. And then the little business people, especially around Seattle, a lot of them are immigrants. It used to be the university district in Seattle was wonderful, Vietnamese restaurants, Hindu, Indian, whatever, whatever you wanted. You could walk down there and smell all the good stuff and little funky stores and everything, and that's not sustainable. They made a plan, and I saw the plans before they implemented them, and, I started out trying to warn people in Seattle that they weren't in the plan. I mean, because they actually write these plans, and then they hire architecture firms to design buildings on property that they don't own.
Okay.
And that's going on all over the country. And everywhere that they're doing it, the people that live there, the first thing they're saying is that I don't want to do that with my property, or I do want to develop, but I want to make the money because I'm the one that owns the land, and I'm the one that gave up everything for 60 years to pay for that land.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is to do, the plans will be the same. Like my neighborhood in Seattle, my landlord absolutely planned on developing his property. The city of Seattle came along and said, no, we're going to develop it for you because we're more moral. And the fight was on.
So this is what you're describing here as well, as in a way, is that is one corporate force taking over from another. Again, this is it's all about the mafia who has the most guns, basically, or the most resources here in a way, and to actually exterminate the competition, as it were, or eradicate the competition, right?
Yeah, and then the people, like the tenants, like me, my landlord owned 70 properties in a prime real estate in Seattle, and he was a bug to the corporate developers that wanted to take over his houses, that were in cahoots with the city of Seattle. So I'm like, Hugh, if you're a bug, then I'm a no-see-em, It's ridiculous how little respect there was for me as an individual living in one of those houses. I was in the way. If I didn't help the city, then the city was going to mess with me. And then I found out they had my file. They told me they had a file on me. There was really nothing in it because I'm not a criminal. But what if I was? If I'd already served my time and done my, paid my dues to society, you're supposed to be able to, walk free when you're out.
Right, but do you think that that's a misconception, though? Again, because isn't this about attitude or how we look at the governing bodies above us in a way? We think that we are free within the system, right? But that nothing could be further from the truth in a way. We're given these fancy ideas about that we have certain rights and we can do this and that when we have, democracy and we can vote for this guy or the other one. It's like we have this idea of that. But what you discovered here basically is that you discovered the truth that we actually don't have any of this, and the misconception is that we is our attitude in a way, or our perception of the governments. They're not really there to try to do the best for us, as it were, but they're there because of their own self-interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it only works if we believe in the lie.
Of course it does. Yeah.
Our silence is what, it's our assent to them. And then when I was so embarrassed every time I found out that something that I had been taught that I believed was true was in fact not. And it happened continuous. In fact, it's still happening, okay? 10 years later, I'm still going, I can't believe I hung on to that,
Well, of course, but that's like the journey that we go on here to discover and try to dismantle. I mean, again, we're talking about empire builders who's been on this track for, several thousands years. Some people will even tie it back further into history, or ancient history even. And here we are, in a way, try to discover the situation around us and the environment. What the heck is going on here? What are we a part of? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And am I a tool for the dialectic? That's my big question.
Yeah.
How much of what I do helps them?
And but do you think that, sorry to interrupt you there, but do you think that you're even and this becomes more philosophical and a tad, a bit difficult, I guess, but do you think that even your efforts to try to work against them is still being a part of the dialect, if you follow me? That you're still kind of, by fighting them in a way, you're still a part of the game, if you follow my train of thought?
Well, the only thing that makes me think that I'm not, because a lot of times I do, in order to get things because the communitarian synthesis was to be the ultimate synthesis. It was going to be so perfect that there would arise no antithesis. And we are the antithesis to the ultimate perfect synthesis.
So that's why they need us, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because right now people are plagiarizing my work and rewriting it just a little bit and putting it in places. It's weird, okay? So if I fell directly into a dialectical argument here, then they would have the rebuttal, you see. I'm opposing the synthesis, then, naturally, according to their theory, there should become another synthesis where my opposition argument should be able to be absorbed and balanced into their argument, yes, which would create a new synthesis, right?
Right, there you go, yeah.
Right, so it's not happening. What they're doing is playing down my argument, introducing it in other places where, they don't reference me, they don't reference my work. It's interesting.
And so you think at this point you think that this is being done purposely by a few ill-willing agents, or people are just plain stupid and don't know what they're doing? What do you think?
No, it's done purposely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's that to me. There's been several. First of all, they tried to get me to join them. It was in a good way. I was asked to help protect the privacy of the people in a program I was studying called Compass.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, there was quite a bit of grants in that. In community policing, there's a lot of money if you want to help the police, find ways to gather personal data. There was money. So, and at the time, what I did was I didn't actually make a vow of poverty exactly, but when I saw that the whole game was that nobody was going to fight them on these things because they had too much to lose, okay? Mm-hmm. And it took 16, 18, sometimes 24-hour days